Mark Smith here, medal consultant for A.H. Baldwin. A little box in front of me here for a medal which was only issued to the next of kin. What this box contains is something called the Canadian Memorial Cross. The Canadian Memorial Cross was instituted in 1919. It has the cipher of George V on it. It was issued to the mother or wife of all of the Canadian soldiers, sailors and airmen who were killed during the First World War. And since 1919, there are now 4 versions of this: the George V, the George VI, and the Elizabeth II, and then a second version of that for more modern conflicts. The cross itself is based on the military cross. We will recognise that as the basis of the medal. The arms are joined together by a wreath, and on the end of the arm of each cross there is, on the bottom 3, the maple leaf of Canada. On the back, the man's number and rank and name has been engraved, and as you can see, this one has been worn an awful lot because the actual back of the medal has almost been worn away by a very proud mum. Now, because this chap is a Canadian, what we can actually do is we can go onto the internet and first of all we can find out when he was killed. So we do that by going to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and this gives us all of the information that we need almost instantly. We can see now that his name is William Fleming. There's his service number. He was in the 24th Battalion, the Canadian Infantry, which were called the Victoria Rifles, and he died on the 5th of November 1915. And we now know that he's buried in West Outre Churchyard and Extension. Now that little village is just outside, just behind the famous Ypres salient that we hear so much about from the First World War. What you can do then is you can continue on the internet and go to the Canadian Archive, and from them you can actually find his service papers. Now this is something that we lack so much in this country after the Army Medal Office was bombed in the Second World War, destroying some 60% of our First World War soldiers' papers. But if we still had this resource, as the Canadians and Australians and other countries do, then we will be able to find the same things that I'm about to tell you about our lads as the same as we can about this Canadian guy. So William Fleming, we now know his name, 65334. He was born in Liverpool, England, and he gave his next of kin as Mrs. H. Fleming, with an address also in Cheshire. He joins the Canadian Army in November 1914, and like many soldiers he is trained and then eventually sent overseas. He lands in France sometime in May of 1915 and proceeds with his battalion to Ypres, and he was in the 24th Battalion, which are the Victoria Rifles of the Canadian Expeditionary Force. He gets not well at some point. He has an abscess on his jaw, and then worryingly, just about a week or so before the 5th of November, he's admitted to hospital with hysteria. Now that must be some form of shell shock. I mean, he is right in the front line, this poor lad. On the morning of the 5th of November 1915, I believe he was in the frontline trenches from what we can read in his paperwork, and he was seen by a German sniper, and the German sniper shot him in the head. The first intimation of this we have is that on the 5th of November he is admitted to number 4 Canadian Field Ambulance as a very brief statement just saying that he's come in wounded. It then says very simply, an hour or so later, died of wounds, number 4 Canadian Field Ambulance, November the 5th, gunshot wound, head. But because we do have the detail, we have a further report here for him, and it has the incredibly awful diagnosis of lacerated brain, died of wounds, 5th of November 1915. He was buried in basically the back garden of the building where the field ambulance was. And I found here, again, amazingly what the internet can do for you, but I found here an actual photograph of the cemetery. When the memorial cross was issued, as you can see here, as his medals, his scroll, his memorial plaque and his memorial cross were issued to his mother, I can almost guarantee you that, bless her, she never had the funds to go and see him. But we can say that she very proudly wore a memorial cross in memory of her son, William.